Welcome, everyone. For those of you who I haven't had the pleasure to meet, my name is Maria Becerra, and I'm going to be your facilitator for today. Today, we are very excited to present you Alberto Amezquita. Alberto is an amazing professional. I connected with him about a year ago, and he's super smart, very knowledgeable, and I'm very happy that he accepted the invite to be here with all of us. He's an economist with studies not only in finance, but also in AI, and has over 12 years of experience in modeling and analytics areas in the banking and services industries. More specifically, he has 10 years of experience in leading statistics and data mining specialized teams. He's also proficient in modeling, artificial intelligence, and credit risk management. Okay, so Alberto, I'm going to hand it over to you so that you can walk us through today's presentation.
Okay, thanks, Maria. So can everyone hear me?
Yep, can hear you well.
Okay, so thank you, Maria, for the introduction. I think that was a very unfair description. But I appreciate I appreciate all the adjectives that you use to describe me as a professional. Just to complement that description, I was working for EY, Ernst & Young in Canada until last week, and now I'm here working in Mexico. I'm just starting a new position as a head of risk analytics at Citibanamex, and I expect this presentation to be something like where I will be sharing my experience using AI and like how you can try to make the most through like a good prompt engineering. This is not meant to be like a expert kind of monologue. It's more like I want this to be some like an interactive environment so we can share practices. And I'm sure that here in the group there are people who are very experienced in doing that. So please feel free to reach out and make any comments or questions. So having said that, I have shared the deck with Maria. I don't know, Maria, we can start with the first slide.
Yes, let me share the slides here.
So we have prepared some examples of how actually we can do this again more interactive. But the idea is that at the end of the presentation we will share an example of how can we use a relatively good prompt engineering to again extract the most of the value from the LLMs. So so let me just here. Okay. So again, so why is this important today? As you may know, we have a bunch of tools that use that are based on LLMs, and in the same way that we um, let's say have analytics, or the same way that we have many tools today, we need to know how to use them properly to add value to our work, right? It's like I think that I was reviewing some of the presentation of some of the materials about prompt engineering, and they used to use the symbol of Google. So when Google started, nobody used to know like how to make a good query to get the website that they were looking for. But as you continue using the tool Google, you actually learn how to ask the right question so Google can retrieve the correct kind of direction of the website that you want, right? But the same way that we have some constraints or some barriers in the language, we also have some barriers and some constraints when we use the LLMs. The idea is that in this presentation we will explore some of the elements that can affect that value that we can extract from the LLMs. And at the end of the day, I hopefully we have like some good practices and some like kind of bad practices that we can avoid, for making our life easier. If we can go maybe, Maria, to the next slide. Okay. So basically, this is the agenda. Maria already introduced me very well. So the idea is that we'll try to understand what is prompt engineering. We will discuss a bit about the importance of AI and applications. As I said earlier, we're going to describe some techniques or some best practices. We will use a real world use case so we can kind of learn all these concepts. Then we are going to share some like mistakes, some errors, so we can again uh, be aware of them and try to avoid them in the future. And at the end of the day, when you have when you have issues or you are not capable of transferring like the question to the LLMs, there may be some errors. Some of them are just that you get the wrong answer. In some of the other cases, you may have a result with hallucination. We are going to discuss a bit hallucination about hallucination a bit later, and then we expect to have some time to share some questions or best practices. So maybe Maria, we can go to the next slide. So what is prompt engineering? Prompt engineering is the practice of crafting effective inputs or prompts to optimize the AI model. So I don't know if we have lawyers here in the forum, but as you know, the language have some let's say characteristics that make it very complicated. No, we have learned how to communicate effectively because we have been practicing communication since we were, I don't know, 1 or 2 years old, right? So um, nowadays we after 30, 20 years of practice, we have learned how to master language, and we can get um, the information or interact with or like all human beings effectively. But that's something that takes time, and you have to learn how to kind of overcome the barrier or how to handle the difficulties of language. So because the LLMs are based on the same principle of or are based on the same kind of framework that is the human language, the LLMs also have some barriers. So let's think about this as a when you meet someone for the first time, uh, that person doesn't know anything about you. So if you ask him like something about you, or if you ask him some help with defining like I don't know, a plan for the weekend, or I don't know, some advice, that person will have no clue of like who you are, what makes you happy, and probably the answer that you will receive will have some kind of errors or some kind of biases. So the same way that we need to be as specific as possible, and we need to kind of have some like um, um, give some context to that human being for that person to give you some context or some like the correct answer. Similar to when you go to the psychologist, you need to give him like first a lot of information for that person to help you to figure out what is the problem, right? So the same way in LLMs, we need to find a way to add the right question to the tool so we can get the most of the value from its capacities. So Maria, can we now go to the next slide, please? Okay, so the LLMs or the AI today has opened a lot of opportunities for us to improve the way that we work and improve the way that we interact with other human beings, and also improve the efficiency of many tasks. And similar to what when we started using using analytics or machine learning, or before that, I don't know, the statistics. We need to be aware of the principles of those tools so we can learn their boundary, their limitation, and also extract the most of the value, as I said before. So later in this forum, we're going to share a use case on how this tool, these LLMs can add a lot of value, but given, um, if you follow some principle or you follow some like a structure in the way that you request the information. So again, this is something that is common across of all the industries. You need to learn on or master the prompt engineering so you can have accurate results and at the same time avoid errors or issues or hallucinations in your answers. Um, so that's yeah. Let's go to the next slide, please, Maria. Okay, so these are some of the elements that are important to consider when you are writing a request or sending a request, because you can also do that today through some or channel like images or voice. So the first element is the clarity and the specificity. So as I said, all the elements are based on the same principle that the human language. And the human language has a lot of ambiguity. And that's why we have the lawyers who has spent years and even centuries trying to kind of harness all the issues that the language has. The second is the context and the constraints. Again, there is a lot of ambiguity in the language. You need to give the tool enough context and enough information for the tool to retrieve the correct answer. And then sometimes sometimes the format is also important. So for instance, if you are requesting, if you want to use ChatGPT or any other LLM to, for instance, extract information that you will use later to do some forecasting, or if you want to know some predictions on, I don't know, what is expected interest rate in Canada in the next 1 or 2 years, you need that information, some structure that you can then, in a efficient way, copy and paste in your whatever program you're using to make your prediction. So in order to, again, have that desired result, you need to also give up the proper instruction to whatever tool you are using in order to have the structure that makes your life easier. So if we go to the next slide, please. There are some we have at the same time that we have advanced or progress in the development of LLMs, and now we have more powerful models and more specific models to help us in our daily work. At the same time, there is progress also in some other areas like I don't know, AI ethics, or maybe in this case there is also some progress in the how to craft your prompts to make the most of the tool. And here, what you're seeing in the screen are different kind of approach of technique that you can use to kind of limit or improve the output from these models. So the first is the zero shot. Then you have the one shot and the few shots. And this is basically how are you kind of how you are transmitting or how you're sharing the some examples or some information for the LLM to take into account for for the tool to create your to produce your expected answer. There are like more techniques. I'm sure that there are like different approach to help the model to improve the result. But these are just some examples to give you kind of some flavor of what are the different approaches that you can use. And then at the end of the day, you have the chain of thought that is a bit more elaborated. We're going to, in the example, I'm going to share the final result of what I used to create some prediction on some macroeconomic conditions, but then I will kind of share the process that I have to go through in order to produce this output that you will be seeing in a few minutes. So Maria, if you go please to the next slide. So similar to the elements of the prompt engineering, these are kind of some best practices. So the idea is, as I said earlier, to be as specific as possible. Sometimes when you interact with a tool like ChatGPT or the DeepSeek model of a Llama model, because this model is that so elaborated or so kind of complex, and the answer that this tool produce are very like uh, human-like in terms of the syntaxes of there are some predefined even like answer that make you feel that you are interacting with someone. You can mistakenly assume that what you have in front of you is a person, but you need to understand that you need to be again as specific and give the tool enough context or information for you in order for you to have a proper proper output. So the first element is being as specific as possible. Then then you have to again understand like the nature of the language that you are using. The third element is the to take some time to experiment. Sometimes you have to play around, like go have many iterations of your prompt before realizing what is the best the best way to produce a prompt in order to have whatever answer you have. In the example that we will be sharing later, I was able to kind of produce a very structured output using different tools, but I have to go through like a process where I iterate like at least like 10 times. And even sometimes in order to improve my prompt, I I have to provide some example of the output I was expecting. Like even like share some screenshots with the tool for the tool to help me to figure out the prompt. And sometimes the prompt. I mean, if we are using like this tools in kind of the daily in a daily basis to help us to figure out what is the best way to save money or how to plan a trip. It's like that's one specific use, but if you want to use the tool to kind of produce result for your work, you need to be a bit more kind of consistent in the way that you approach the tool, so you can avoid errors, because those errors will have impact in your credit strategies, will have impact in your in the way that you interact with the customers, and those errors may have an financial impact that may be devastating for your company. So it's important to again consider that this tool, regardless of like how efficient or how elaborate they look, they will continue having errors, the same error that a human being can have. And then yeah, I think that this covered like all the four elements. We can go to the next slide, please, Maria. Okay, so this is the use case that I was referring to. So let's assume that we are working for a financial institution, and we want to use the tool to create some macroeconomic adverse scenarios. So if you want, let's say, if you need to produce different forecasts or get information from the web, from different like sources, you can leverage an AI tool that has the capability to extract information from websites, and that by doing this you will kind of speed up all the process of the guiding information process, and then use that prediction to kind of feed your stress model. So in the financial system, there are different models that you have to kind of keep update in order for you to um, predict your expected losses. And based on those expected losses, you will basically make some provisions that will help the bank to kind of survive to an eventual like financial crisis or adverse macroeconomic environment. So this is like in Canada is the OSFI, in US there is another like institution, the Fed, who define the rules for the banks to make those provisions. And in order to make those provisions, you need to kind of feed your model with some macroeconomic data. And this is a process that you need to do iteratively, like every month, because again, you need to provide like some numbers or some information to your regulator in order for you to be compliant, with all the kind of the framework. So we use this as an example to kind of showcase what would be a good example of a prompt engineering. So if we go to the next slide, please, Maria. So we wanted to like find and or to create a prompt that could be let's say that good that would be like model agnostic. So we wanted to see if we will be able to create a prompt that can be or can retrieve the information that I'm expecting, regardless if I use ChatGPT or Gemini or DeepSeek or any like meta model. So basically, by kind of, as I said, like by defining, by giving like the model some context, by giving detailed instructions to the model on like what is the output that I'm expecting on the format that I'm expecting, the time frame that I'm expecting for my analysis. By giving all these instructions and kind of iterating with the different like LLMs like several times until we were able to find or to produce the output. Like with that process, we were able to produce the prompt that you will see in the right hand side. So I shared this with you, Maria, in the chat. So maybe if you can help me to kind of copy that prompt and
For
open
a
like
second.
ChatGPT and paste it to see we can produce the output that we will have in the next slides. So idea again is again we want to have some format, some structure that allow us to um, reproduce the same result like every time. And additionally, we also wanted to make sure that the information that is produced in the LLM come from like a reliable source. So so we ask the LLM also to use only like a kind of reliable sources, and also to add the reference to where is the tool extracting information from, and like some like additional consideration that you will see in the presentation. I think that we can share this presentation with the group after the
Yes,
meeting.
I'll send it. I'll send it over. And Alberto, what do you want me to do with the prompt? Should I paste it in the chat so everyone can test it with their own tools?
Yeah, let's do that. That would be great.
So the idea is to use the same prompt in different tools so that people can see and compare.
What the and this is just to kind of to test or confirm if uh, again because you like, even though like this model have kind of a similar kind of rationale behind, like each like model is different from the other. So we wanted to also confirm is if in the future, let's say we have ChatGPT 5.0 or I don't know, like a DeepSeek 3.0, if the prompt will continue being like kind of valid. So again, to kind of improve the quality, we testing different tools, and this in theory this should like work more or less uh, regardless of the tool that you select. Obviously, if you select a model that is too old, probably or that don't have like the most recent information, you won't be able to extract the information that you are expecting. Yeah, exactly.
If everyone is, if any of you have already passed the prompt through different tools, feel free to add your thoughts on what were the differences or what did you note. I'm gonna share here my screen. So I think I'm just sharing the PDF now, right? Alberto, what do you see on the screen? Is it Grok or are you seeing the presentation?
No, yeah, this is
Oh,
basically.
you're on mute. Sorry, let
Oh,
me share again.
can you hear me
So
now,
this
Maria?
is the output using Grok 3, which was released recently, actually.
Yes. So maybe Maria, just to continue the presentation, we can
It shows
go.
the historical data, some notes, scenario assumptions, projections. I like that it provides the source here. Some
Yes.
notes.
So Maria, can you hear me now?
Explanation of the projections.
Oh, yeah.
And then using ChatGPT, it shows macroeconomic stress scenarios, historical data, sources, scenario assumptions. Okay, yeah, same of the other one. Projections, scenario 1 and 2, and then sources. Oh,
So this is
oops. Was it I the only one that I could hear, Alberto?
so this is one of the possible approach that you can take
Oh, I
to.
cannot hear Alberto. Okay, it's on my end. Oh, okay, I hear you now. Good.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, sorry.
Perfect. Yeah, thanks, Maria, for this. So actually, we don't need to go through all the different tools to kind of confirm like this. Maybe what you can do is tell this prompt by your own, like change the country, change like the time frame, and see what happens. But in theory, if you need to produce these results, at least in a quarterly or monthly basis, this should do the work. Um, and then um, obviously there should be someone who kind of confirm that the numbers are accurate. But again, like this can um, significantly improve or the way that we interact with the tool and also the way that we like the risk and stress testing team kind of do their daily work. So maybe what we can do, Maria, is go back to the presentation, or maybe we can just review, or you can zoom in the prompt. But it's not because I am the one that who wrote like this prompt, but there are different elements there that basically summarize some of the best practices on this, on how to again interact with the tool. So, for instance, we are very specific and detailed on what are the possible sources where we want to extract the information. We are very detailed and specific in like what is like the context of this work, of this kind of this exercise. We also are very clear in like how we want the data to be structured and like how we want the historical data and the forecast to be separated. So all those elements, if you review the prompt, are again very detailed, and all of them are focusing avoiding a kind of the LLM to hallucinate or to extract data from different sources. You can even notice that if you can, if you ask, there are in some of the tables there are some gears that are kind of empty, and that's because the LLM don't have the information or the model have the information to kind of produce that forecast, and that's okay, and probably that in that table that value is missing or it's empty because we requested the LLM to basically use only like reliable sources. If we don't make that, if we don't make that instruction explicit, we may have the LLM to kind of producing the number based on maybe an historical trend or some historical relationship. So again, since this is an exercise that we'll be using to produce an output that is meant to be sent to the like a regulator, we don't want those cases. Maybe some other exercise if you are kind of if you want to create different scenarios or like test like how reliable is your stress testing model, you may be interested in some values that are not kind of official. In that case, you need to again adjust the prompt to get the result that you're expecting. But if we move to the next slide, Maria, so we will see basically the output that we were expecting. And if you continue scrolling down, you see again the same output. These numbers may change from the one that you have in the screen. Because like I run this exercise, I run I created this slide for this example. We created them for a forum like 2 months ago. So probably there is another one or like some changes compared to the version that you are having. Plus, like nowadays, some more like ChatGPT, they remember the previous like instructions. So if you are someone who basically use these tools to produce, I don't know, um, um, to I don't know, write poems or like to write documents, probably that information is stored somewhere in the LLM, and the output would be like different. If you use, on the other hand, the tool to produce to make a statistical analysis or to code, probably the output will be different. But that's something that, again, regardless of those kind of details, overall the output should be more or less the one that we have in the presentation. So I think that we can just skip this slide and go to the next one. So there are like many use cases, and just to share some of the kind of experience in like in my personal experience using the LLMs, you need to kind of be able to iterate, or you need to kind of be humble and don't expect to have the right answer, with the first try, like every time that you use the tool. So if you sometimes have let's say the proper or the answer that you were expecting, but you didn't give the LLM enough context, or you didn't give the LLM enough kind of instructions or constraints, maybe you were just lucky and you have the output that you wanted, but again, you were lucky. If you don't get used to like properly use the tool and define the framework and some context before asking the questions, you may in the future, if you kind of get used to uh, like some way of typing or your questions, you may have errors and you won't notice them. So again, like every time that you that you make a request or a query to this tool, you need to validate and kind of improve the writing. So in my case, I have to run like as I said, like 10 different iterations where I have to feed the model with different inputs before producing the prompt that we have in the screen. So it's just kind of an experience that I have. You may be like a natural, like better um, kind of coder, but in my case, it's only like through the iteration and a trial and error where like how you can have a good result. If we continue, Maria, and go to the next slide. These are some of the errors that we just mentioned. We can again skip this slide. So basically, the best practices has like a, like the flip side and like the error, right? So we just want to avoid them. And these are, as I mentioned earlier, some hallucination that you may have in the AI response. So the better you predict your prompt, the more likely are you to avoid this errors. So the recommendation that all the employees is to always validate. They can use the tool to produce a first version, but it's the responsibility of the final user to make the all the tests and all the verification before using the output from the model for like any like professional purpose. And if we go to the next slide, Maria. So these are kind of some kind of next steps. There is something else that I just remember earlier today that I didn't add to the presentation. I did in the back. Just, a way to improve or to add more information to your LLMs. So there are like different kind of tools or approach for you to make the most of the model that you have available. First, the one that we just discussed in this presentation is the doing a correct kind of structuring correctly your question. But you can also have some other tool like doing again some RAG to improve or enhance the data that the model used to produce your answers. So I will just give an example. uh, in the financial institutions, the regulation are very important, and you need to basically document all the process. Uh, and producing those documents is something that takes a lot of time and energy from those teams. If you can use, let's say, an open source model like Llama, and if you have an AI team, uh, let's say, capable enough to do RAG, you can take all the information from the bank, all the part documentations, all the analysis that you have available, and also complement that information with all the documents from the regulator that have all the rules or the criteria, and then you can use that new model to produce a first version of your documentation. And that way you will basically save a lot of hours or days of work or your team, and produce a first version that is very kind of aligned with what the regulation is expecting. So that's just an example of how you can use RAG alongside with a good prompt engineering to speed up the process. If you consider that, if you take into account that a financial institution like one of the big five in Canada or one of the top leading banks in any country, if you consider that those institutions have at least I would say that 80 to 100 models, and you have to document them all. So, and you have to basically do that like or produce results or analysis like every quarter. If you take that into account, having or spending or investing in your in improving your LLM is something that for sure will pay off in the mid and long term. So that's what I wanted to share with you guys today. So I don't know, Maria, I think we can just leave it here for the presentation and then open the forum to any questions that you may have.
Thank you so much, Alberto. That was super insightful. There's a question from Lorena. I'm gonna read it. So it says it's
Sorry,
uh,
y'all. And Alberto, I have to say, when you shared your background, being in, having worked in Canada, now you're working in Mexico, and it just kind of sparked the question, and then the two additional ones followed. So, sorry to put you on the spot. This is just from your personal experience.
Lorena, yes, I was like, how do I break it down? But yes, okay, I'll read it aloud. It says, could you provide some insights into how AI is typically taught and received across different regions, specifically from Canada to Mexico to the US?
Yeah.
I'll start with that one.
I will basically say that based on my experience, okay, you have to take into account the AI and the production is not completely democratized. So what I mean is most of the models, most of the documents or the information are produced in the Europe or I don't know, United States. And most of the documents or the kind of the information that feed those models are, produced there. So it's very, so probably if I make a question to an ChatGPT about the regulation in Canada, there will be way more information than if I ask the same question, but for a country, and a small country, very small country, I don't know, Bahamas or, IT. And I mean, that's something that you should expect because the information that feed the models are not even through all the different countries, which makes sense. If you take that into account, you take into account that limitation, you will be able to make the most of the model. And again, as I said earlier, if you have that situation, maybe what you can do is take one of the open source models and have that as a kind of a starting point, and then using RAG, you can amplify the information. Let's say adding, let's say, specific information on the IT regulation or Bahamas regulation or any other smaller country. So that's the information, the feedback I have. I have tried to use these tools for different exercise in different language, and I find always that um, English and some information about kind of USA is the one that is more kind of available and more complete.
Thank you for that.
Yeah.
Thank you, Alberto. The other part of the question is there a digital divide or gap between these countries in terms of AI access, understanding, or adoption? And I think you touched a little bit on that, based on how these models are being built and the type of documentation they are fed with.
So if I correctly understand, this question is about if there is any kind of international agreement to democratize information or share some practices. So in that case, basically, I would say that there is a kind of an interest of some institutions or countries to democratize information or the access to the AI, but it's something that is kind of behind the development. So what do I mean by that is like the most advanced models are probably built under like some different criteria that don't include equality or democratization in their kind of inputs. So let's say I'm pretty sure that today the big giants that are developing the models, they are using information that they need to produce the best model, regardless if the information is kind of equally distributed or consider all the different groups. So that's what I basically know so far. I'm not following like the I'm not following the development like that close, but that's what I know.
Thank you for
Yes.
that. That was a good response. Thank you for that. Thank you, Maria.
Sure. Thank you, Lorena, for asking that question. I would like to ask everyone to share also their best tips or advice on the chat about how you prompt today. Like, have you found any trick that you use to prompt better? I recently learned, I think it was this past weekend, about something called psychological or emotional prompting, which is basically adding to the prompt something like answer accurately, otherwise I'm gonna lose my job or I'm gonna lose a finger, something like that. So people are actually adding that piece to the prompt so that it gets better responses. I haven't tested it honestly, but I mean, worth trying. I think this is all about testing and iterating. But if anyone has any recommendation, I would love to hear.
Sometimes, and I know this is a question for the group, but sometimes if you can, let's say, share a screenshot to, let's say, ChatGPT, I mean, and this work for the model that have like different like like channels to like receive the information, that helps a lot. Sometimes it's very hard to describe in words what you're looking for, and kind of having like some visual aids or some additional like kind of ways to communicate what you're expecting is something that really improve the quality of your output.
For
But
sure.
to share their experiences.
Yeah, no, thank you for sharing that, Alberto. Well, I don't see any other comments here on the chat. So maybe I'll just take us to the final part of the slides. Sorry, 1 second. Oh, okay, Victoria said something. Sorry, I missed it. Once I challenged ChatGPT on answer it gave me that was biased and not based in history records. Okay, interesting. I presented arguments, says Victoria. Lorena says, craft an email to an executive leader that is tech savvy and outlines the return on investment for the proposal to gain their buy-in and gain trust and confidence from the group. I like that one. Thank you, Lorena. Yeah, there's different tips and tricks. There's also an image that, let me check who shared it. Sorry, I forgot. Shaik, I hope I didn't mispronounce your name. Shaik also shared a prompting image, ChatGPT prompting. I'll share that also along with the slides that you shared, Alberto, for everyone to have handy. But just to wrap up things, I would like just to present the certificate of appreciation to you, Alberto. Thank you so much for your time and commitment to our community, and thank you for bringing your expertise and knowledge to all of us. Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Maria, for organizing this. Thanks, everyone, for attending.
Yeah, just as next steps, follow us on LinkedIn if you haven't, and join our community on Discord so that you can keep up with all the upcoming events. And thank you to all of you for making the time to invest in yourself and upskill. This is an iterative process. We have to keep learning and new things will come out and very quickly. So just join here this session so that you can keep learning more. Thank you everyone for attending today.